Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, Joanna Hart's Joanna Hart Show, and I hope I'm live on air. I hope people can hear me. I'd appreciate somebody giving me a shout out that they actually can hear me right now, perhaps from the switchboard. So I am hopefully on air. It's all very silent though. It's all very quiet. I've just rushed home because I had the summer holidays at the moment, so I'm not to my usual timetable and running all over the place, really running around London, and we haven't had the sun, so I went out late with my son and got back and proceeded to sit out in the sun because literally we just haven't had any sunlight all through August. It's been really, really horrible and like a really white sky with grey lights, so there's a bit of sun. It's now streaming from my window. I was enjoying sitting out in it just to try and get some of it before September comes and we wave goodbye to the sun. Fingers crossed we'll have an Indian summer. That would be awesome. So I am going to have a show tonight. I'm going to talk about an experience that I had. And I did have a guest, but I don't know what has happened to them. Let me just check my email. I don't think... Okay, so... That is really odd. That is really odd. So, okay, the guest that was coming hasn't showed up. Never mind. That is the way things go. That is the way things go. So, yeah, so I will talk about my experience. Last week, I had been talking to a friend about my name and my name. Oh, hang on, there's somebody. It's really odd. So there's a man ringing, which my guess is female. Let me speak to them. Hang on. Unless it's transgender or something, you know. it's annoying that sometimes people think they can just ring me when I'm on air and I've got the studio. It's really something, I can't, you can't ring me. Oh, I have to ring you. I know people are busy, but, oh, God, it's so annoying. I just don't think they can see my text. Can you see my text? Oh, they're typing back, so they can. I just don't understand. It's a female guest, and yet this is a... Oh, okay, so it is the woman. Okay, no. Let me ring you. Okay? I have to... This is fun, so professional. Okay, I hope she gets that. Right, now I will ring this person. Okay. Give me 5. Okay, just breathe. Yeah, I had been speaking to a friend about my name. My name, Christine, was given to me by my adoptive parents, who were very abusive. I was named after an aunt of theirs. My natural mother, if it was my natural mother I spoke to over the phone, I didn't meet, said she called me Tracy. And so my second name is my adoptive name. And I don't resonate with either of those names. So I don't really feel like I've got a name. And when people speak to me, I tend to feel you're actually talking to me. I don't resonate with my name, and it's quite difficult. So I prefer it that they don't use my name. I also feel bothered using other people's. I feel very self-conscious using other people's names as well. I don't know why that is. And I was talking to a friend, and I was trying to find out who my name was. And when I was astral journeying, I came across somebody, and I was in a different part of me, a highly intelligent part, and I felt that my name was H-A something. And I was trying to work out what that might be, Harriet or something. And then a friend of mine mentioned someone called Hathor. It was a goddess Hathor, and I really resonated with that. So I went to read a book about her and just felt, obviously, I'm not a reincarnated god, Hathor. I'd be a little bit more successful. But I'd existed in a previous lifetime, worshipped that god and perhaps being called after her or something like that. So I located my name, and I located a very strong attachment to Hathor. And I was just reading about her, and it's only a matter of days, and I came across on Miles Johnson's Facebook. I was only looking on there to see if he'd slagged me off recently, and that is after taking down all my basis number 50 and replacing it with somebody else, which is a height of rudeness, because I was too sick to go to his conference, lying about the fact I hadn't turned up 3 times. It was the second occasion. The first occasion I sent a film crew, Vice, in my place and a speaker. So I think that's pretty good going. On both times I was really badly attacked and just couldn't go. So something didn't want me to go very, very strongly. I was fighting it, but it was stronger than me. So that's what happened on those 2 occasions. So it might have been someone he had there. I know it's a Polish TV were there. I'm not really fond of them after what happened to Max at the moment. I would have seen them and turned and walked out. So that maybe it was my inner self telling me. Anyway, I saw on his page a lady called Nancy that he was talking to about Hathor. And she'd had an experience of going to the British Museum. And she had called Hathor Sekhmet, which is the alter ego of Hathor, the kind of angry side. And so I listened to her, and I found it quite interesting. So I decided to invite her on the show. So I'm going to bring her on. She's got a man's picture in her, so it's quite I didn't know who it was. So see if I can bring it. That can't be her. Oh, unless it is, probably, maybe. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Nancy.
Hi, Chris. Good evening.
You completely threw me because I'm looking at a picture of a man and...
Yeah, that's my partner, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I thought I would get a Skype request from you, and then I got, excuse me, I got one from him. You see, I get them all the time from men, so I just thought I ignored it, and so I was waiting for you, and I thought, oh, where is she?
Yeah,
And
I understood.
never
Yeah.
mind. Never mind. Got you now. So great. I was just telling everybody listening that I had an experience in, and this is how I came across you, because I had obviously, I know Miles, or I did know Miles until we had a little falling out, and I had an experience where I had come across this goddess while looking for my name. I don't have a name because I grew up as an orphan, and this name really resonated with me, Hathor, which is the alter ego of Sekhmet. And I just read that, and then I found your interview with Miles Johnson talking about Sekhmet, which really interests me so much. And I shared it with a few people, and they said how interesting it was. I wrote down quite a lot of the book titles you were talking about, and actually tripped off to the British Museum the day before yesterday to look at the statues, and it was just really amazing. I had a really amazing feeling of connection with the pillars, all the Egyptian artifact in the Enlightenment room, and I really felt a strong draw to the whole thing, actually. I just really did. And then I found myself out looking at the sun, and I found myself holding my hands up and saying, "Hail Ra, King of Kings." I couldn't stop myself. And of course, I've upset all my friends that are Christians, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And you've gone off your head. But I just seem to have had this, I don't know what it is going on.
Yeah, when it starts, it starts.
Yeah, so I was hoping you could enlighten me as to what's actually going on, and is it happening with other people, and what's going on basically.
Well, yes. Well, you've had this experience with Hathor. That's what, like you said, another part of Sekhmet. She's often connected to Hathor, but my experience, because in the British Museum where you've just been, there in the Egyptian Hall, there are statues of Sekhmet, but also statues of Hathor. So I don't know which statue was important to you, but to me it was the big Sekhmet statue that you see. That's a solitary statue standing on its own when you enter the Egyptian Hall and go to the left.
Yeah, I think I saw them. There were Sekhmet statues in two different places, one on the ground floor to the right and one on the left. Did you go up to the third floor, because they've got more Egypt up on the third floor?
No, I did not go up to the third floor, but I spoke to people of the museum last year, and I was looking. They said they had they had more Sekhmet on display than I could find. But there are 5 downstairs in the Egyptian Hall, and there's one in the Enlightenment room. And upstairs, I don't know if there's any statue there. Maybe small ones, but I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't go upstairs. It was so hot, and it just seemed a big climb. I thought, no. My son was moaning about. Climbing, and he was like, "No, this is boring. This is boring." So I came home, but as soon as I came home, I felt that I wanted to go back there and bathe myself in ancient Egypt. And I mean, I was watching a documentary about it on TV, and I just felt that need to be close to it, and to sort of
Yes, yes, I totally, I can tell you what happened to me last summer, and I did a lot of research after that because um, I just wanted to know more about her, but I wanted to know more about her historically, but I found a lot of spiritual books, much more spiritual information and spiritual books coming out the last 25 years about Sekhmet. um, those books are more easy to find than any other information about Sekhmet that's from Egyptologist book or books or whatever. You only find small sections about Sekhmet in books, and they all tell the same things about where they were found, where the statues were found, what her myth was, and then there's not a lot of information. It's a bit strange that she's one of the most interesting goddesses of Egypt, and but she's less studied. She's so they spend much more time with of Isis. You can read a lot about, and this is something that is coming up for I think the last 25 years for the books that I found. And Egyptology is only for exists for 180 years, and a lot of things about the past we don't know, and it's coming up. And what is also I can tell you my experience, but in a minute. But I want to tell you that at the moment, a few months ago, 66 statues of Sekhmet were excavated again at the mortuary temple of Amenhotep III. And so she's coming to the surface, and she's inspiring a lot of people, and it's happening in a lot of ways, and more people are becoming aware of her.
Oh, it's quite creepy, isn't it? So it is a bit creepy in a certain way. I found it odd that I'd become aware, and then I found you, and you'd become aware, and I thought, oh, everywhere I look now, it's sort of around me kind of thing, you know? It sort of seemed a tiny bit creepy. So what was your experience? I've heard a bit of it off.
Well, the thing that happened last year is that I was in London, and we always visit London once a year when we are in Wiltshire. And so that's one day in London to go to a lot of bookstore, esoteric bookshops and things like that. And I was in Museum Street at the Atlantis bookshop, very near to that. And I thought I really need to visit the museum at the moment. And the last time I was there, it was 2010, so it was a couple of years back. And I only felt I needed to go there. And ever since I had a burnout, and a massive one, which had to make me quit my job as a legal advisor. I become more sensitive, and certain hunches I follow, and this was just a hunch to go in, and I went into the museum. I wanted to go to the Egyptian Hall because that was always very impressive to me, and I suddenly see this statue, because you really cannot miss her once you go by the stone, the Rosetta Stone that's there. Then she's to your left, and when I saw her, I was just I could not breathe. I was just standing there, frozen in a way, and a profound memory surfaced, and I felt I knew her, and she knew me. And I once was very close to her, and she was just she was so enormously powerful, but so loving. So nothing for me that made me afraid or anything. It was only a loving energy. But I also felt a weird possessiveness even to her. So I felt, you are mine. And I felt this coming back to me, that I was hers. It was kind of, I cannot explain these feelings. I can only say them. And I felt that she had a real consciousness. So there was this living statue in front of me, and I was standing in front of her, and people were walking by, and I did not understand why the rest of the tourists didn't stop in their walking and just looked at her. and saw it, but they just looked at her, made a picture, and walked by. So I thought, oh my God, I was thinking, my God, what's happening here? It felt very personal at that moment. And I also felt a little bit of grief, and maybe that's because she's not in Egypt anymore, so she's not home. And she's standing there, everybody's passing her by, and some people recognize her energy and a lot don't. So that was my experience last year summer.
And then what happened after that? You got all the books.
Yes, well, what happened after that, the first things that happened after that was that I got a lot of synchronicity. So I saw lions everywhere, in magazines, on the streets, in buildings, everywhere. I kept seeing lions, and there was even last year. I don't know if you're familiar with the crop circle patterns that appear in Wiltshire. There was even a Sekhmet formation that appeared in the field. So to me, it was the synchronicities were following and following. It kept on going. Then in the same holiday, I went back just to check what happened and will it happen again. So again, I was standing in front of before her, and I still got the emotions and the connection. Like you said, you had the connection to Hathor. And then I went walking around in the museum, and I every time I felt her pulling towards me. So I could feel her energy when I was going through the museum, trying to look at other things, but they didn't have that same energy. So every time I had to go back to her. So it was and that happened in that holiday. And when we got home, the synchronicities didn't stop. So they appeared on timeline of my partner, all kinds of information about lions and Lion's Gate on 8/8, the closing of the gate, but all kinds of things. And it was so overwhelming that I thought I really need to study her. So I found books about her. I found out all kinds of information that's in the books about Egypt, but that's really a small part of information I could get. But what I got was that in the 18th dynasty, this pharaoh Amenhotep III, he was kind of obsessed by Sekhmet, and he created more than 730 statues, and they were put on both sides of the Nile. So they were put at the Temple of Mut, that is close. That's in Karnak on the south bank, but also on the east bank, on the west bank, where the mortuary temple of Amenhotep was. And these statues were put there during his reign. It was a lot of prosperity and peace. And then after, of course, whole Egypt was kind of plundered in the 1800s, when a lot of statues of Sekhmet were taken all over the world. So they are a lot of them. The most beautiful ones are in museums, like in New York or Paris or Vienna or even the Vatican. The Vatican owns 50 statues of Sekhmet, but only has a few on display. And also the British Museum, of course, has 30 statues and has only 6 on display.
Why is that? Why do they?
I don't know. Maybe they have so many of them because they took a lot of statues all over the world when the time that they plundered. Well, Egypt was plundered, and all the Egyptian stuff is now spread all over the world. There are, of course, still Sekhmet statues in Egypt, in the Cairo Museum and a lot of places, but most of them are still at where they were made in the first place in about 1400 BC. They say in the books, but we don't know that for sure. It's all very thin information. Also, we have no clue how they made the statues, because every statue is different and there was no mold. So, and the materials, we now can, with diamonds, we can carve into granite and things like that. But then they did not have that equipment, so it's a big riddle how they even made the statues.
Oh.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know the Vatican had them. Why have they got them?
Yeah, that's a big question. There was I found on the internet, I could find a picture of an inaccessible terrace. Well, it's not for tourists, and they have 8 statues there of Sekhmet, one sitting, one standing. Sitting, standing, 8 of them in a horseshoe shape. And a horseshoe shape is the same shape as the lake that is at the Temple of Mut. You can read that they have these 50 statues. They have an inaccessible terrace. They have a few on display for tourists. And why they have all these other statues, I have no clue. I would love to find out, of course. In March, there was also an omnipresent Sekhmet symposium, where they had at least one speaker that was speaking that was giving information from the Vatican, but it was nothing that I could find a reason that there was a special or specific reason that they have them. But, well, in my opinion, I think, well, the Vatican has so much knowledge in the place. They certainly know about her powers. That's what I suspect.
It's odd, isn't it, that all the Egyptian gods I was researching when they went to I can't pronounce these, monotheic and polytheic. They went from having all these gods, and then after Akhenaten, they decided just to have the one god.
One god, yeah.
It's fair enough, because it was still one of the old gods. And then Moses, who did seem to worship Atum or Aten, however you pronounce it. And then all of a sudden, there was this other god that appeared out of nowhere, Al-Shaddai, which we, and it seems the Muslims also know as God, this Al-Shaddai character that came out of nowhere. So did you research around that, about where the gods went to?
No. I just concentrated on the information I find out about her, and certain things because a lot of spiritual books are appearing, and there's some are combined with facts and spirituality. But I did not research what you just mentioned, because I was in a way guided for my audience. You always learn from people that you give a lecture for, and they ask you questions, and that made me go into a whole other direction after a lecture that I gave in Holland. And a lot of people come up to me and after a lecture and say, I went to Karnak, I felt this, I saw the statue crying, or I felt all kinds of things. And I think that's very special to me, that people share these things. And they come up to me and they tell me, and they say, and they help me in my research that I'm still doing.
What kind of research did it had about where she's gone to in the spiritual books that you're reading?
Well, I found out that there are about 8 books that appeared last 25 years that are really into the more devotional aspect, or they are really using the energy and really feeling that what Sekhmet is all about. She's all about transformation on a personal level, but also on a level that's global, because now she's coming to the surface and more people are aware. But you can also be transformed by this statue personally. So for me, that is now definitely happening, and it's not easy, but it's something you choose and you go along because she destroys the things that need to be destroyed, and she had her old myth where she destroyed the whole human race until she was being giving so much liquor that she became drunk, and then she turned into a healing goddess. That's a myth. That's the oldest myth about her. And but also as a person, as she's coming, in my opinion, she's coming in times of chaos, and she is clearing the chaos. So she is destroying, and that sounds scary, but sometimes it's necessary to destroy certain things that don't need to be there anymore. So there will be space for new energy.
Yeah, that's true. What are the best books that you've managed to get?
Yeah, I did not buy all 8 of them, but I think 5 of them. There's a good book if you're really into having facts and spiritual information, and that's a book by Storm Constantine and Eloise Koku. It's called Bast and Sekhmet, Eyes of Ra. And if you look it up on Amazon, you will find it immediately, because it's one of the most known books. It's from 1999. And there's also a really good book that's called Heart of the Sun, and that's by Candace C. Kent and Anne Key, and that's from 2011, and that's from the States. So even in the States, they have a temple. These writers also are priestesses and have raised a temple in Nevada. There's a book by Robert Masters that's from 2002, and that's called The Goddess Sekhmet, and that's really into spiritual bodies. That's the psyche, spiritual exercises of the 5th way. I cannot explain that now, because that's a whole other thing. But he also says she comes in times of chaos, and to chaos she brings terror, not in a destructive way, but in a transformatory way. And just in June, this book appeared by Nikki Scully, and Nikki Scully is doing trips to Egypt for 20 years already. And there's a book that's called Sekhmet, Transformation in the Belly of the Goddess, and I'm reading that just now at the moment, because it appeared only in June, and I just ordered it. And that's also about that she's called the Lady of the Flame. She's a goddess that has been called with 1,000 names. There are so many names for her. One of it is called Lady of the Flame, and that has to do with the crown chakra and the life energy, and even the sexual energy that's connected to the snake that's on top of her head, just before the sun, in front of the sun, I mean. And she comes, like I said, in times of chaos, but she transforms it. So I think the world, like we now know it's chaos all over, and that I think she is one of the female energies at the moment, and she certainly will not be the only one, because some people have a thing with Mary Magdalene. That's well, at the moment that's not my thing. So I think it's for a certain group. Maybe it's connected to past lives. I have no clue, because I never did a past life regression on this. I only have these weird feelings that I cannot explain.
Oh.
And
yeah, it might be past lives, or it might be just a certain God rising. I do think we've been cut off from God, and we've been cut off from these other gods, and we don't really know what's going on. And we've had religious systems which haven't really had much God present, and most of us have priests and there's hammams, and we aren't encouraged to do that much communication. Not really. We've got these prayers, but not really to feel them come through us and that kind of stuff. Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe this is a time when we, as a human race, we've changed, so we're able to feel them perhaps with that ascension, if it happened. I don't know if it happened or not. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. And we're feeling this through past lives and through just because it's something that's there. I mean,
Yeah.
it started to the whole thing with Egypt. I just felt the whole thing. It wasn't just specifically an attraction to any one particular god. I just felt the whole draw to the whole thing, and you know, I'm going back there tomorrow, and I just feel just want to be amongst it. And because the British Museum in London is actually, they've nicked so much from Egypt. They've got it set up. It's almost like being in Egypt.
Yeah, that's true. And this, you know, this Egyptian hall is also a lot of magicians used to meet each other there. So like a lot of powerful people that were around in at the beginning of the bookstore of Watkins, that was 1893. Blavatsky was walking around in London. They all met at the Egyptian hall. So you cannot imagine how many magicians and how many witches or whatever, priestesses or whatever you call them, would meet in this Egyptian hall. That gives it even more power.
Oh, that's weird. Who was the Watkins one? What book did she write?
No, Watkins is of course the oldest store that's in London on Cecil Court. You know it? Watkins Bookshop?
No, is it good bookshop?
Oh, it's great. It's one of the best. There are 3 in London that I always go to when I am in London, but the oldest one is Watkins Books, and that's on Cecil Court. That's very near Leicester Square subway. And that has the biggest, I think, the most books on different subjects. But and then there are, and this started in 1893 when Madame Blavatsky was around in London and said to Mr. Watkins, well, I'm missing a kind of esoteric bookstore, so why don't you start this? And he did, this John Watkins, in 1893, and he helped getting her Secret Doctrine being published. So that's one of the oldest stories of the bookshops in London. Now you also have Atlantis Bookshop that's in Museum Street. So if you go to the British Museum, hop into Museum Street, which is next to it, leading up to it, and you will find the Atlantis Bookshop. And this is really a great bookshop because the owners, 2 ladies, they know all about Sekhmet also, because in this store, the previous owner used to have a Sekhmet statue, but she took it with her. And these ladies who are now running the shop, they a few years ago, they had little Sekhmet statues on a shelf. And every time they came in, these statues would have turned themselves to the museum. So, and they put them back where they wanted them, how they wanted them to, what they wanted them to face, and then they just moved a little bit again. They looked at the museum. So, these statues were also pulled by the magnetic force.
Oh, interesting. So, does that have some of the books that you've listed in that Atlantis bookshop?
Well, what do you mean listed? Oh, if they have it in, I think they just they have the Nikki Scully Transformation in the Belly of the Goddess, the book that appeared in June, and they have I know because I was there recently. They had a few copies of the Bust and Sekhmet Eyes of Ra book, which has facts in them and all kinds of spiritual information from 1999. That's the book I see when I'm in stores. That is the only book that I see that I see more often.
Oh, excellent! So they'll have copies if I nip down there tomorrow.
Yeah, you can. certainly find them. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I could just find the whole thing interesting. When are you going out to Egypt?
Yes, yes, that was also suddenly happening. I had this lecture given in I gave a lecture in Holland, and I have a friend who is studying the pyramids for 25 years already, and he said you need to be in contact with somebody, and there are two lovely Dutch ladies who are organizing trips to Egypt, and they did that before, but now they want to do a whole Sekhmet journey, and it's called Goddess Sekhmet, the Sacred Journey, and it's from the 19th until the 26th of October of this year.
Oh, yeah.
And in this trip, it's really for the people who are attracted to Sekhmet. So they want to create a group that is really connected. They are feeling the connection to Sekhmet. And then we will go to all these places where Sekhmet statues are. Of course, in the Cairo Museum, in the neighborhood of the museum, we go to the pyramids. But we also go to where the most important Sekhmet statue in Egypt is, and that's in Karnak. So there will be a flight from Cairo to Luxor during the holiday, this few days, and we will visit all the important places. And they asked me to give a lecture at the beginning of this trip, so that will be in Cairo.
Oh, excellent. So is it so people that want to go, or anybody that's interested, or myself, where if you contact you?
Yes.
What's the
Well,
name?
you can find all the information about the places we go to and what is included and what is not included on skyhighcreations.nl. So Sky High Creations is our website, and we use this. We on our homepage you can find this information because these ladies didn't have their own website, so we offered to use our website to get the information, and it's about 1,250 euros about globally, so per person, if you do the 8-day trip. About that, but you have to really read all the information on our website.
Right, excellent. So, great. That's interesting. Is it dangerous? Because I'd inquired actually about going before this happened to me. I'd inquired about going to Egypt before that, and a travel agent said because like you, I'm blonde, and it said no, not with your colouring. So I don't know if white people can go, can we?
Well, we went there once, and that was 20 years ago. So I'm blonde also. I wore a hat most of the time because of the heat. We were there in a period that was too hot, actually. But now, well, there are, of course, guides with us. They have Egyptian guides with us, and I don't think that there's any real problem because these ladies know exactly where to go. This lady has been living in Cairo for 30 years, so she knows her way around. She knows everyone, and her sister, who's also organized the trip, she lives in Holland, still in Groningen, in upper part of London. And these ladies wouldn't do anything, organize anything if it was dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you can get hit by ISIS anywhere. You know,
everywhere. Yeah,
they're careering around. I hope they're not destroying any artifacts. Are ISIS destroying any of the temples, or they're quite safe?
I don't know about that. I haven't heard of anything being destructed by. No, there's none that I know of. No.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But you never know. Of course, you never know where the next terrorist attack will be. It can be everywhere. So It's for us. It never kept us from going to London because we love London so much.
Yeah.
We had a lot of things happening there. A lot of years ago, there was a thing going on at the what was the store? John Lewis was blocked, and was all kinds of things happening. So, but yeah, it can happen everywhere. And of course, Cairo is also there's 20 million, I think, living there. So that's, you never know. It's you cannot escape it. I think if it's your path or whatever.
Yes, I know. I'm just seeing there's another terrorist attack in London just come up in front of the screen. Oh, I know. Well, we keep having these vans ploughing into people. Which, it's awful, isn't it, really? You know, anybody at any time can do it. It's just
you cannot prevent it. They cannot prevent that. No.
But
in my opinion, it's like a kind of I don't know the word in English, but like this old energy is trying to survive, and it will do all kinds of weird things. But what we don't hear in the news is the positive things that happen, and the people that we meet in England and we meet in Holland who are really on a whole different level and are not being influenced by the way they want to keep us in fear. And we need to step out of this fear. And I think Sekhmet is one of maybe many influences at the moment that wants to get us out of this fear. And we need that on a personal level, but also on a global level. So in my opinion, this new period, this new Aquarian age, or the age of Aquarius, whatever they call it, sometimes you don't really notice it, because if you only watch the news and all the negative energy that's going around, and this will be there, but we need to look at it and transform it for ourselves, but also transform it, or because the critical mass or the 100 monkeys, and when enough people know what's really going on and what the negative energies are all about, and that how big this transformative energies are that are now going, then that they will not survive. But it's a way of course of keeping it up and trying to keep us all asleep.
Yeah, exactly. How much have you found that you've been transformed now? Have you got an altar at your house, or what is going on with you right now?
Well, that has to do with the burnout, the situation that I, like everyone, need to deal with past traumas or whatever. And they hold you back, or they make blockages in your body, and that happened last year. That got me into a lot of illnesses that eventually can be transformative. So everything happens at once. That's my personal story for my body, but my mind, the whole spiritual experience is uplifting and is very empowering, and it gives you the power to transform whatever needs to be transformed. And that's for everybody personally. Of course, there's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. We've just been joined by the station owner. Hawk, are you with me?
Yeah, this isn't actually your show. I just need to make a public announcement for everybody that's listening. The station is undergoing and has been undergoing for about the last 8 hours a massive DDoS attack on our DNS servers. And for the most part, the website itself is down. Some of it works. The chat room doesn't work. All of our audio servers are working, and that's why I built them the way they do. You cannot take down the radio servers. but the chat room's down and a good portion of the website is down. And I just wanted to let everybody know what was going on. I'm working on it. But this is a very good example of an unfunded station. We're not, we can barely pay our bills every month and usually fall behind, and I cannot implement any kind of backups, when we can't even pay the bills for what we have right now. So anyway, hopefully we'll have this all put back together and working again in the next couple of hours, but don't worry. Everybody, the audio servers, radio servers are still up. If you can't get to them through freedomslips.com, just go to tunein.com or something like that. They will be there. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Hawk. Oh, well, that was Hawk. That's a shame that's happening right now. So our show is going out live, so that's fine, and is being recorded, but that's a shame for other people. Well, anyway, Nancy, I'm just coming up to the end of my part one, so I'll bid you adieu, and thanks very much for coming on, Nancy. You've been very interesting, and I was short. I only gave you a short moment to prepare, and it's lovely to have you. And so, are you on Facebook for people to contact you?
No. I am not on Facebook, but my partner is on Facebook, and whatever is sent to him, I can receive. So that's you just are connected now, I think. But his name, I have to spell that, or Roland Bellion. His surname is Bellion.
Oh, I've got it. Yes, I can see it. Yeah. So I will join him on Facebook. You should get on Facebook, Nancy.
I don't know. Maybe. My pleasure. I was
skyhighcreations.nl.
Yeah, skycreations.nl. There you can find a lot of information. I publish things there, articles, and all kinds of information about Sekhmet. So I'm not on Facebook, but my partner Roland Bellion is on Facebook, and he posts a lot of information about the oncoming journey and lectures that are given or whatever. So
excellent, lovely. I don't know if we're going to have a music break, so I'm going to just give myself an enforced break because I'm so thirsty.
Thank you very much.
What you do, guys, is just hang up, and then you kind of come away from us. And I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me.
Well, my pleasure, and thank you very much for interviewing me.
Thank you, Nancy. God bless. Thank you.
God bless you. Okay, bye.
Bye. So, listeners, we're going to break now because I don't think there'll be any music coming up. I could wait to see if there is music, but I don't think there's going to be any music coming up. So I might just have my break and then come back on air. Yeah, it's coming up to break. So I'm going to mute for 5 minutes and then come back. Okay, thank you.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Who are you?
I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
Why am I here?
You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
The Matrix is older than you know. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lasan.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, welcome. It's Christine Joanna Hart. Joanna Hart Show. Wow, I've got a little bit of echo there, coming live to you from London. We just had a really interesting guest, Nancy Pollet. The station is a little bit upset. It's been hit by hackers, so it's gone under in the chat room today, so nobody's going to be there. That's unfortunate. So please do remember to make a donation. If you enjoy Revolution Radio, please go to www.revolutionradiofreedomslips.com and make a donation. Even $1 will make a difference to how we can get the station up and running and going for you and keep everything alive and bring you lovely shows each week from all of us, because it is run free of charge. I work free of charge. The station runs free of charge. So if you enjoy the show, you can go to the website and just donate $1. That would be lovely. Thank you. Or as much as you can afford. Thank you. So we have been talking earlier on about Egypt and this Nancy Pollet's experience with Sekhmet and my own experience of feeling connected to these ancient gods. I was brought up a Catholic and didn't really work for me. It was all about these pedophile priests, and they weren't nice in any way. I went to a church that had a dog that wasn't the nicest dog. So I think it was a cross between a lab and a Rottweiler, and the dog was always running around the church. So every time we went to 10 o'clock mass down at this church, there was always the fear that me as a little girl, I would encounter this dog. And so it was scary. Going to church was scary. Going to church was unpleasant because we had to get up really, really early, even though we'd been getting up for school each day. We had to get up and go to church. We sat in the same pew. listen to the same dull priest, and I don't really think that these priests have much of a connection to God. I think most of the time they go into the priesthood because of sexual problems. A lot of the time they don't know what their sexual orientation is, and they go in there just to hide from everyone and to have a job, a home, a car. Everything's given to you. And I have met one or two priests that I've thought have been spiritual, but the rest of them, I have a problem with them, including one called Paul Smith, CMF at the moment, down at Botwell Church in Hayes, who is really quite obnoxious and really shouldn't be a priest. And I remember this guy at school, he was bullied by everyone, and it seems that's why he went to the priesthood. But they're supposed to be our intercessors between us and God, and you go to the priest and the priest will confess your sins. You go to the priest and the priest will give you wisdom. You go to the priest and this, and we say prayers which are rote prayers that we've learned, or prayers that we think up ourselves, and it's not really much of a communing with God going on, and it's not really enjoyable for us. It's quite boring. It's always been boring, and some people have that boring as a kind of like discipline, like, oh, it's boring, but I do it kind of thing, and they make that into, oh, I'm a good person. Look, it might be boring, but I get down on my knees as soon as I wake up. It might be boring, but I talk to God. And aren't I a good person for doing that boring? A lot of people are really good at doing boring things. I had a friend come round the other night and say, oh my God, your kitchen's a mess. And it was a mess because I got hold of a juicer, and so the place is covered in apples, and I bought so many apples and oranges, and they were all over the side. And this friend was like, "There's chaos in your kitchen," and it wasn't chaos, but I did feel overwhelmed by it a little bit, like not knowing where to start. And the friend took out stuff out the drawers and said, this is for this, and you'll be a lot more streamlined. And although I felt a sense of relief, I did talk to myself about it, and I'm not really good at doing boring things. And I said, I'm not good at doing that because I'm not doing boring things. And my friend said, nobody likes sorting out their kitchen, but I beg to differ. I think some people do like sorting out kitchens. They do like cleaning. They do like keeping their house spick and span and sort of perfect. They do enjoy doing that. I don't enjoy doing it, and I asked myself, why don't I? I'm not lazy. I really enjoy work. I really enjoy writing. I enjoy writing. I enjoy good investigation. I enjoy writing a newspaper story. I enjoy all forms of work. I really do like work, because I think only after you've worked can you really taste relaxation. I think if you're not working, you can't really taste relaxation as much as you do when you work. So it's sweet, relaxation after work. I'm a bit of a workaholic, actually. When I worked for the News of the World, I just worked, and there wasn't really a rest. I did develop panic attacks, actually, after pushing myself so hard in that, because I wanted to make a name for myself, make a career, which I did eventually, but it didn't really mean much. So I'm not lazy, but one can look around my house and see, oh, there's books there, books here, the kitchen covered in fruit, and they could ask the question like this friend did, oh, are you lazy? Or even to go as far as this particular friend and say, you're lazy. But I disagree. I'm not lazy. I just find things like that boring. And sometimes I can find life really boring. It doesn't seem to have a strong, vibrant vibration that goes through me to make me feel more alive and connected to a lot of things. I mean, like connected to like energy. So I feel more alive and feel as if I'm spreading my energy all over the universe at the same time, to feel wonderful. And most of the time, life has a mundane kind of tinge to it, and mundaneness that I find quite difficult to deal with. And I know a lot of people, addicts, I suppose, find it hard to deal with this mundane. And God has been brought down to this mundane. I don't know how I don't know how they have managed to make God mundane, but they've done it, and they've done it really well. So praying has about the same appeal to me as tidying those oranges and apples up in my kitchen. I'd rather kill myself, quite frankly, than pray or tidy up that fruit in the kitchen the other day. Luckily, my friend did it for me, because of this feeling I have that it's a very boring thing to be doing. So God is boring. I have tried to find God in the Bible, to find excitement, to find joy, to find a feeling of being connected all over the universe, to not be stuck in a box, to not feel trapped in, to not feel the pressure of the matrix, to not feel bad and not connected or in love with the material world, rejecting the material world, but not being able to connect to anything else. Interestingly, I was watching a program, Channel 4, called The State last night, so it's still on Channel 4 Catch Up, and it's pretty good. I watched 4 hours of it. It was very fast moving. It was good. It was damn good, about these British people. Obviously, they were Muslim, and they travelled to join Islamic State. One of them was a black woman with her 10-year-old son, Isaac, and she went with him, and it was interesting. And you saw the reason why, fundamental reason why they'd gone, not really filled with a hatred of the West that you would expect, but it was a desire to be part of something. And you actually saw them all hugging, and you could see how they have kind of generated like a cult almost around basically violence. The women had the sexual excitement of a fighting man who went to the front, came back all sweaty and holding his gun, and, you know, a lioness amongst lions, as one of the women said. She just wanted to bed one of these guys. And the men, of course, you know, getting a beautiful wife and having the camaraderie of other men amongst all this blood spilling. And so they have got their connection to God through blood spilling and violence. So they've whipped themselves up into a frenzy of excitement and the threat of near death, being bombed to shit in Syria. And they've created that fervor of excitement for God that they shouldn't have to do, really. It should be there anyway. But someone has pulled the plug out on God, certainly, and I was trying to put it in for a long time. I was trying to light my Christmas tree for a long time, and looking for God, really, and it hasn't happened until now. And it was only through talking to a friend who mentioned Hathor, and I had been trying to find out the name of my higher self, and I just got to the ha bit, and encountering entities whilst astrally journeying and asking them what they would call me, and I wasn't really getting to who I was. And when my friend said the name Hathor, it rang huge bells, and I went looking and was reading about Egypt. I had bought a book by Joyce Tildesley about Egypt, the myths, etc. And I was reading that happily. And then I came across Nancy saying she had had that experience in the British Museum. And I thought, oh, off I go to the British Museum. So I went off just day before yesterday, and I did feel very drawn to the statue she was talking about. I did. I felt connected, and I specifically felt really connected. I just felt very almost falling in love with the big, because the British, of course, they love to plunder other countries. So it's like walking around in Egypt, because they've got all the big stones there. I mean, you just look up, they've got these massive stones of these pharaohs, and it's awesome, actually, in the Enlightenment room. It's awesome. I just went in the Egyptian room first. I thought, oh, this is quite nice. But then when I walked across to where the Rosetta Stone is, all around it is awesome. It's very beautiful. And I was like, wow. And I really wanted to be there. But I was only allowed about 4 minutes there, because my son was like, this is boring. I don't want to be here. There's too many tourists. And so he dragged me literally out. And so I couldn't really be there. So anyway, I bribed him to go back tomorrow and just be there. But when I came home, I really felt that I missed it, and I just really felt I wanted to go back, and I really wished that I still worked for the News of the World and had an income that I could get a flat and live opposite the British Museum and go there every day and sit there. Actually, I just felt, whoa, my mind was opened, which is what we all want, really. We're stuck in our little heads, and it's just like horrible. For me, I find it a horrible experience. It's almost like putting a crisp packet over my head and having to breathe in salt and vinegar crisps all the time. It's like I just want to rip it off and really feel free and connected to everything all at the same time, like to have a proper consciousness, not the consciousness of a rabbit that most of us have, and most of us don't seem to give a shit, but I do. I don't like it. I can't enjoy it. I can't get into cleaning my toilet and really getting off on it like everyone else. So sorry about that. And I really did think, wow, I'd love to go into that enlightenment and just sit there. I was busy touching everything. I have a really dirty look by the security guy. He looked at me, I looked back. I thought, is there going to be a problem? Because I'm touching everything. And but of course you can't really psychometrize it, because everyone else has been touching it. So it's just got, shame. But it was really freeing for my mind. So I'm going back there tomorrow. I just feel like taking something from there. I really do. Obviously can't just pick something up and steal it, but if I had my way, I would take something from there, for sure. Actually, an idea would be to take pictures, I suppose, if one is allowed to, and at least blow them up perhaps and have them around. But yeah, it would be nice to go out to Egypt. It would be nice to be there. I'm probably too scared to go because of the ISIS threat. And I always, when I go to other countries, I always think, I saw Midnight Express. My friend Janice dragged me along to see Midnight Express when I was only about, I was really, really young, and we shouldn't have gone to see it. We shouldn't have been allowed to get in there. But it really screwed me up to go anywhere, really, because I always thought, someone's going to pluck drugs on me and I'm going to be in a prison with someone smearing their tits across the glass, God, it was just really shocking when she did that, wasn't it? So I don't really want to go to Egypt and sort of have someone plant, a bit of bloody grass on me and find myself in an Egyptian prison. So I really freaked out going to countries. I did bizarrely hitchhike across Morocco on my own, ended up in Tiznit, stayed in Tafrau for quite a long time, just out in the middle of nowhere with just the natives. Went in and out of their houses. But that was another lifetime. I wouldn't do that now because I'm a mother. But I would like to go to Egypt. I very much would like to go. But getting back to these gods, so I came home and I again felt very, very bitter that we haven't got that here. We have a dead life experience and a dead God experience. And it really isn't to be found. And I wondered about these old gods, and I found myself, don't know, my listeners know that I did have that experience with Odin, and I did journey and come face to face. I come face to face with a god, and the god communicated with me telepathically that it was Odin. So I assumed that because I'm white, that I have this Norse roots. But I tried talking to people that are connected in those circles, and I didn't really feel a connection. And I didn't really feel, well, I do feel a connection to Odin. I didn't really feel I needed to take it any further. But interestingly, I found myself the other day holding my hands up and talking to Ra, the sun god, and just feeling. And then I walked barefoot and I started talking to Geb, which the Egyptians called the earth, which is male rather than female, like a lot of them are saying now. Gaia, what does that mean? That it's male. I feel that the earth is male. And I was reading these Egyptian myths where it says even, you know, he grew the grass like hair on his skin. And I just felt that. And I really felt that. And I felt like a transcendental kind of feeling of, whoa. And it's kind of, whoa, like that. I was busy, you know, holding my hands up, feeling the sun god shining on me, like warming my whole body. And then I felt as if my feet were transplanted into this earth god, and I felt almost like feeling his hair by running my bare feet across the grass. And all of a sudden I felt like totally plugged in and totally released from my puny little rabbit body, and I felt really, really connected. And I think that there are all these forces in the universe. They are all these gods. They are these supernatural beings around us that do have a massive influence on us. But we can't, because we've been locked into this matrix. And part of it has been these religious control systems. And we haven't been able to feel God in any way, shape or form. And so we're shut in really badly. But people mostly don't feel it because we've got these replacements like lusting, sugar, shopping, sex, spending money, but you can only go so far with that, and then you reach a ceiling and it makes life really unfulfilling. And if you really feel it, it makes life really horrible, actually, you know, really horrible. So the more sensitive you are, the more likely you're having a really shitty, crappy experience. And so you try and make yourself feel better. I know I sugar out and I try and, you know, do it through sugar. And I got my eye on that. But, you know, since I've done primal therapy, a glass of wine doesn't do anything for me, which is really weird. Primal therapy really makes you unable to addict out on anything. It's a good therapy, but it means that you can never think. I think I'll get pissed, you know, a bit drunk, and, you know, sort of escape myself. Actually, after you've done primal therapy, you can't do it. So I don't know if it's good or bad. So all I can do is have a goddamn donut to try and feel just a little bit not shitty, you know. And then the pressure of the mundane of life. We are stuck in a mundane universe. It's been made mundane, which by that I mean godless, unmagical to the core. We're offered up Harry Potter and all this bullshit as, oh, that's magic. Well, no, it's not magic. You know, real magic, magical feeling, the word has been so urinated on, means the feeling of God and feeling of sparkliness, specialness, good, you know, this connection to our Father. And after I had this experience of walking on the earth and this connection to, it doesn't really matter what you call them. You can call it Odin, or you can call it Osiris or Horus, or, or Sekhmet or whatever, or lion-faced, or these are forces that have been there for years and years and years, and they're still there, but we've just been blocked off from, like, putting a bit of double glazing, so we can't feel them. But now I think when we're having all these changes going on at the moment, or maybe just because it's end times, that double glazing has been opened. And so certain ones of us are able to, in a certain way, to feel it. We are starting to feel it. And I don't think these forces, these angels, gods, whatever, some of them are bad ones, obviously, they're still swarming around us. And I think because it is end times that they are returning, from higher dimensions down to this dimension, because of it's becoming a really intense battleground, and we are becoming more attuned, so they can communicate through us and use us as little pieces on the chessboard, so we can commune with them if we care to. So it's wiping away all these old views of God, and we have to find new ways to pray. And if it takes praying to the goddamn sun, that's okay. The Egyptians, they were a very intelligent race of people, and for someone to say, oh, but they were evil, they weren't all evil. I'm sure the ones in charge were evil, just like we've got now the ones in charge are evil, but I'm sure they were good people, good, loving, normal people, and they that was their mode of talking to God. They called them different names, and they felt their energy. They felt these cosmic energies. So it's not shameful in any way to connect to God through these different avenues, whatever way resonates with you. Whatever way resonates with you is good. I actually looked into it, and I found some links, and let me see if I can find them now. Let me just close this. These links. I found these links, and I was looking into how these old gods seem to have disappeared and who made them disappear. And where are we? Okay, wow, I can never find anything when I want to. Okay, and I'll read out my post from yesterday. This is what I found about how these Egyptian gods were destroyed. So here, I'll just read it. Moses, it seems, leads the Yahweh cult and the Allah cult. That's Catholicism and Christianity and Islam. And it was Moses that spoke as Yahweh and Allah. So the gods of this world is actually Satan, hiding in plain sight. So we're trained to see this one and that one as evil, and we're cut off from our real Father. Now here was the quote that I found. The Quran's account has emphasized Moses' mission to invite the Pharaoh to accept God's divine message, as well as give salvation to the Israelites. According to the Quran, Moses encourages the Israelites to enter Canaan, but they are unwilling to fight the Canaanites, fearing certain defeat. Moses responds by pleading to Allah that he and his brother Aaron be separated from the rebellious Israelites, after which the Israelites are made to wander for 40 years. Sorry, really sore throat. Also, here we are. The scholarly consensus is that the figure of Moses is legendary and not historical, although a Moses-like figure may have existed somewhere in the southern Transjordan in the mid-13th century BC. Certainly no Egyptian sources mention Moses or the events of Exodus and Deuteronomy, nor has any archaeological evidence been discovered in Egypt or the Sinai wilderness to support the story in which Moses is a central figure. The story of his discovery picks up a familiar motive in ancient Near Eastern mythological accounts of the ruler who rises from humble origins. Thus, Sargon of Akkad's Sumerian account of his origin runs, "My mother, the high priestess, conceived in secret, she bore me. She set me in a basket of rushes with bitumen. She sealed my lid. She cast me into the river, which rose over me." The tradition of Moses as a lawgiver and culture hero of the Israelites may go back to the 7th century BCE sources of the Deuteronomus, which might conserve earlier traditions. Kenneth Kitchen. Hello? 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 Oh, I don't know if I'm back on air again. I think I came off air, and I don't know when I did come off air. Okay. I will just find out when I went. God. Okay, so I came off air, and I'm not sure when actually I went off air. I'm just trying to find out now because I was talking 5 minutes ago. Okay, so I came off air 5 minutes ago. Sorry. So as I was saying, Moses came along and everybody believes him, but basically there was no such thing as Moses. And before that, there was a pharaoh called Akhenaten who made everyone in Egypt get rid of all these statues of these minor gods. And as I was explaining, that people might say worship the creator and not his creations, but basically if we're just going to go and, go to a nightclub or whatever, or focus on clothing or shopping rather than, putting your hands up and talking to the sun, which is the better thing to do. At least you are thanking God. At least you are praising, call it a creation, call it a God, but at least it's better than going and buying a damn dress. But Akhenaten, in his wisdom, decided to get rid of these other gods. And even though they are all connected to the one, he burnt all the statues. So basically you're left with one God, the creator God, who probably seems a little bit distant because really we can't see him. So it's nothing we, in our little rabbit hutches, we can't grab hold of or feel. So it's very difficult to communicate with a God who's just invisible. It's like, asking me to get to know my neighbor and I don't even know what they look like. I mean, it could be black, brown, and someone saying get to know them. Well, how can I get to know them when I'm stuck in the house next door? I never see them come out. It's absolutely impossible. So I think Akhenaten made a big mistake by getting rid of the gods that the general people stuck on Earth could actually connect to. They could make a connection to. They could get their strength from. And I believe God chose those different emanations of himself, such as Sekhmet, Osiris, Horus, Jeb for the earth, Ra, the sun god, to like rays that he put out that were part of him, like Jesus was a part. And Moses, then, this figure called Moses, if he actually existed, made it even worse. He stole the Ten Commandments from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. He was around at that time. He was a worshipper of Amun-Ra. He was a worshipper of the sun god. And he decided then to go off into the desert. He heard a voice. It was a spirit, obviously, of some sort. How did you know it wasn't a demon or his dead auntie? We don't know. We just take Moses' word for it. Everyone else seems to. And he created, more or less, these religions. The Islamic religion believes in Moses. So does and the prophecies of Moses, and so does the Jews, so does Christians, and everything's really based on this one man hearing the voice of his Aunt Mary in the desert. And we then cut off from all these other gods, and we just worshipped we worship this being, Moses' auntie, who was called, we call him Yahweh, but that's not even his name because the Hebrews don't have these vowels. So it's actually YMVH, which we can't say. And the real being behind it was actually called El Shaddai. And I've actually seen a picture of this so-called deity or a statue of it, and it actually just looks like a demon. It really does. And I ask you, listeners, El Shaddai, does that sound to you like anything good? It sounds to me like something really dirty and old and vile, that has entrapped our whole universe into some kind of toilet, really, where we can't reach God, we can't feel God, we can't have any connection. So this ancient civilization that we probably all came from originally has been just squashed underfoot. We've been fed this propaganda that, oh, they were evil, and even though they were really, really advanced. And we have just based everything on this other race, this Jewish race, that has fed us this stuff, and all our religions are based on it. And now they are somehow in control of the world, and it's all going a little bit tits up, but there's nothing wrong with their experience of the world. They're busy doing magic and sorcery behind closed doors. They're busy grabbing the world, grabbing the banking systems, grabbing Hollywood, and grabbing the good bits, while the rest of us are just getting mashed to bits in their wars that are being fought all over the world. And all that, you look, and actually it seems to be these people that crushed the old gods, this bloodline that came from somewhere. Looks like it came through Canaan. Anyway, I don't know all the answers, but I'm certainly investigating them. And I'm not actually, I know it sounds mean, I'm not investigating them for anybody that might listen to my show, or actually anybody bar myself, because I feel I'm in quite a desperate situation. And actually I thought that the other night, that perhaps if I wasn't in a desperate situation, and oddly, after having powerful careers and on Fleet Street, and I've published, and having money and not buying a house, bizarrely, and whenever I went to buy a house, I always got a sixth sense, no, don't do it, go here, no, don't buy that, don't, no, leave it for a while, and I really had it quite strongly, actually. Whenever I went to buy a house, I would see me sometimes in a coffin and saying, do you want life or do you want this in a coffin? Don't buy a house. And I always kind of felt quite bitter that I'd had that, that my higher self or whatever had led me away from buying a property, because I'm in such a terrible situation at the moment, unemployed, barely got a roof over my head, no money, no income. I'm a single mother. I have a child to support, and I feel bitter about it. And then I think to myself, no, because my only option, I've only one option, and that is to look for God and ask for God to help me, please, because my life is completely in a mess, and I've only that one option. And so I have to thank the universe and thank God that I have got that, because otherwise I wouldn't look for God. I wouldn't be so desperate to look for God, because I would be okay. And I'm sure, had I have had a house and protective husband and my life full of friends and a wonderful career, I would think I don't need to look for God. Well, why would I? I'd be too busy, bathing in my milk bath and relaxing. I like to bathe in milk and just chill. I would just be chilling nonstop. But because life has been painful and hard and difficult, I have to seek God to help me out. And I've needed it. And really, the feeling that you get when you do feel connected to God is far better than you would get through anything else. Far better than friendships, far better than a mansion, far better than power in this world, or anything, fame, fortune. It is a really amazing feeling that people that do have fame, fortune, and massive houses and whatever, and loads of friends, that they don't ever have that. And it's amazing to walk barefoot and feel God come through you. It's nothing like it. And my search for God goes on. So I am desperate to find the real God. And actually, I cried my eyes out when I watched a YouTube the other day, and it was just a sign up. The YouTube was kind of pretty silly in a way because it was a bit cheesy, and this guy talking over it insulted people, insulted his listeners. But it said Ra, the sun god, the hidden god, and his children, and I just cried and cried because God has been hidden from us deliberately. We are in Satan's kingdom, and Satan would be a bit remiss, I think, if he let us have God here with us. God isn't here with us, and so we have to search out any little cubby holes we can get to breathe in real air and to find God. And if it takes tracing back through these ancient roadways, pathways, and connecting with ancient gods, then I'll be doing it. Even though I'm sure I'll get abused by my Christian friends saying, who's talking to demons, or that's evil. It doesn't feel evil, so I will go with my own feelings because that's all I've got. I'll go in my own heart because that's all I've got. And I was criticized by this as well on Facebook, people saying, use your intellect and research. Well, all you're doing when you research is reading other people's hearts that they've put into a book. So I need to find out myself. And the only way you can find out yourself is by going with your feelings, is by going with your heart, because that's how God speaks to you, through your heart. Actually, you don't really have anything else at all. Your intellect really isn't going to lead you to God. It just really isn't. It is only going to be your heart. It is only going to be feelings. But, proper wholesome feelings, not, a little frisson, or that's an earthly thing. We're looking for the supernatural. And of course, then people say, oh, but demonic entities can make you feel good. Actually, I beg to differ. Demonic entities cannot make you feel good. They really can't. And you can feel evil. I personally can feel evil, and I'm sure other people can feel evil. I remember, actually, I just remember that I had an encounter in a dream with Sekhmet. Actually, it was after I went to the British Museum, similar to Nancy and I, after I'd heard her experience and I touched the statue. I deliberately tried to psychometrize the statue because of her experience, and I couldn't get a reading when I was there, but I did feel something on my fingers. I did comb all over it, parts of it that probably had been touched, but less likely to be touched by the public, and to try and pick up something. And I did encounter Sekhmet in a dream that very night, and she appeared with kind of like, almost like a bruising round eyes, very cat-like, but with like bruising round the eyes, with a strong light coming through, and did tell me certain things about my life, that I would find my pathway, and that my son was very important, and that my son was to be very powerful, and would lead people spiritually. So that was quite interesting, and that I should not worry about money, and that's all, actually. But so that was her. These beings, they are there for us to talk to interact with. My main goal is to talk to the Creator. I want to talk to the Creator. I don't want to go through the Sun God to talk to the Creator. I don't want to go through Sekhmet to talk to the Creator. I want to talk to Creator because I believe that's my Father. So that is my goal. And I do believe that it's going to be an excavation mission, whether it means going to Egypt, whether it means researching, whether it means finding ancient texts that I'll read words and all of a sudden I will find, doors in my mind will be blasted open. That is what we have to do. We can't really, I'm certainly not going to accept Moses, some guy I don't even think exists. I'm not going to suck up his view of El Shaddai. Yahweh sounds a lot better, doesn't it? But that's actually completely made up because there's not an English translation for that particular word. So when we say Yahweh, we might as well be saying blue giraffe. It doesn't actually mean anything. How stupid is that? So I am not going to kneel before this El Shaddai. I believe that it's probably a dark being, and it's probably Nephilim actually coming through a certain race, seeding part of the human race, and then leading them into control and making them control the rest of us and actually destroy the rest of us. But it's actually Satan at work, because we are God's children. We don't deserve to be beheaded, be trampled underfoot, and to be squashed. But these beings have got into power, these seeded humans, and they're not right, and we're still busy worshipping their God. No, let's get out of their kingdom. It's dirty. Let's move away from it. Let's find who's our God. He's there waiting for us just to cry out to him. We have to find him ourselves, and this is a personal thing, but we do have to look, and we do have to connect. Each of us has to connect. Each of us has to connect from our hearts, and then like a Christmas tree will light up, and life will no longer be mundane. We will be children of God and dancing to God's tune on earth, not dancing to this other God. Satan does exist here. This is Satan's kingdom, and he's he's hiding in plain sight. He is hiding as these gods that we're all giving our power to. So he's there hiding in plain sight. Certainly as Yahweh, definitely. I know I'm going to upset so many people by saying that. This is my finding. I'm really sorry. But, gosh. Wow, I've really got a problem with my throat. I have only got a few minutes. I hope I've been on air. There was a glitch where just at the end of the show before the break, there was a glitch where I wasn't on air. I thought the time had got later than it was, and that there wasn't that. So there's a weird glitch there, and then there was a glitch in the middle where I have a 5 minutes. So I hope that wasn't too much of a pain for everybody, and I'm sorry I fell off air, and luckily Hawk, the station owner, was nearby to prompt me that I was actually on air, and then to send me back the show, so that was lucky. He was there while he is busy putting the station back in order after it's been hit by hackers and attacks, which does happen from time to time. So if you enjoy the show, please donate to www.revolutionradiofreedomslips.com, because the station does need your help after it has crashed. So if you can just give $1 or something, then that is fine. On a personal level, if anybody knows of any work in London, anybody needs an investigator, please do go ahead and hire me. I'll give you my websites, www.maraintelligence.com, and my personal website, www.chrisjohartmedia.com. You can find me on Facebook, Chris Jo Hart. Please do join me as a friend. If you can't join me as a friend, just please click like, and then I think you can follow me, or no, go to my main page and then try to add me as a friend, and then if you can't, please do just click follow, because I think it goes to 5,000, then you can't let any other people on. I do comb through now and again to find people that have left Facebook, and just to get the numbers down, so then I can join more people. So yeah, anyway, I do leave my posts on public, so not to worry. So that is Chris Jo Hart at Facebook, and please find my YouTube and hit subscribe below, please, if you can. Christine Joanna Hart at Revolution Radio, thank you. And thank you for joining me, listening to my show. I'm sorry that maybe did get a bit rambling towards the end, but I was trying to express something that is quite difficult but quite really personal to me in my journey. And next week, I've got a really interesting guest. So please try and join me next week. It's a secret guest. I don't give out my guests because my guest might get stolen by somebody else. Actually, I've just seen this particular guest has been a guest on someone else's show. But never mind. It doesn't matter. We all sharing guests are all looking for enlightenment, and sometimes we all look in the similar places, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. We're coming to the end of the show. Hope you're all going to have a really good evening. It's dark out there. I missed my last bit of sun. Boo-hoo. Never mind. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it will come. It will come tomorrow. So I'm off to the British Museum tomorrow. I've bribed my son to. So I hope I have a good time. And you can get served anywhere in London. It's really going. Thank you. God bless.
Listening to Revolution Radio.